Last time out in the BTRDA Rally Series, the crews were in Scotland for the Scottish Rally. Gary Pearson topped the timesheets on his home round of the championship, and a fantastic run from Elliot Payne saw him in second place on those unforgiving and dramatic stages. With the Plains Rally sadly cancelled despite so much work from the organisers, it meant a longer than expected break in the action before the crews arrived to take on the event sign's Woodpecker stages, a redesigned route contained entirely in the infamous Radnor Forest, with 5 tricky stages lay ahead. Callum Black leads our crews away in his Fiesta R5. Previous round winner Gary Pearson, the next of our championship crews, behind non-championship registered but nonetheless well recognised Hugh Hunter. We're back out onto the stages then, finally once again, and Gary Pearson and Niall Burns pick up where they left off, leading the way after the morning's first 2 stages in that Skoda. They didn't feel like they were going fast enough to top the timesheets, but those times and that leaderboard told a different story. For Callum Black and Jack Morton, it would be second place. They felt they were a little too cautious themselves into the opening stage, and they'd be finding that our 5 car was geared far too low for the fast section of these stages. George Lepley and Tom Woodburn would be wrestling that big WD-40 Evo around the stages again this weekend, and they'd have the advantage of a faster top speed over the R5 cars. But that, of course, meant that things were a lot more difficult when it came to stopping in the corners. They were going well, though, leading the B13 class from 3rd place overall. Ian Bainbridge and Will Atkins would be struggling a little this morning. They went out with too hard a suspension setup, and they were finding it hard to get the car stopped or turned in for the corners. They did have a close call as well when they overshot, stalling at a junction. But a quick bump start, and they're back on their way again to end the morning 4th overall, 3rd in the B14 class. This weekend would be a debut in an R5 car for Perry Gardner and Jack Bowen. Of course, previously competing in a variety of front-wheel drive cars with some good results. Things going great for the pair. They end stage 2 with 5th overall. Of course, the Gardner name big in the BTRDA. Richard Hill would have Patrick Cooper back in the co-driver's seat this weekend after a little time out of that seat. And he'd be pleased to report no mistakes. The car was revving a little too high, but that isn't the co-driver's fault. Thankfully, it wasn't causing much of an issue either. 2nd in the B13 class, 6th overall. 7th at this stage would be the fabulous looking and sounding escort of Ian Joel and Graham Wood. They were actually tied on times with Hill up ahead at this stage and fighting for that class and overall result. So it was a level playing field again going into the next stages. Charles Payne and Carl Williamson would be gaining some confidence as the morning went on. After an up and down season so far, it's fair to say. 5th place in our championship cruise last time out in Scotland tells its own story. But since then, they'd had a mechanical DNF on a non-championship round. Things this weekend, though, were going okay. 8th overall for now. But there would be problems for this man, Pat Naylor. Ian Lawrence alongside, the centre diff controller not working as it should be. Worse would be to come, though, at the very end of the 2nd stage. They go off the stage, causing significant cosmetic damage to the car, including ripping off that rear wing. The incident happened after our cameras, but it would be noticeable when the pair came back out in the afternoon. And rounding out our top 10 leaderboard are Elliot Payne and Cameron Fair. Frustratingly for them, they'd get caught in the dust of a limping Hugh Hunter on the 2nd stage of the day, enough to lose them some time, and coupled with increased braking while in the dust, giving the crew some issues on the car with the brakes towards the end of the stage as well. After a spot in service, hopefully the pair would have a cleaner run through the afternoon stages. So with just 2 of the 5 stages complete here in Radnor Forest, the results at the top of the Gold Star are starting to shape up here on the Woodpecker stages, and they're looking like this. On to the afternoon stages then, and we do see some changes on the leaderboard, including Russ Thompson and Stephen Link, who have now moved up to round out our top 10 overall. A puncture on the morning loop lost the pair a few minutes, and that meant they were playing catch-up. Thompson doesn't mind that as long as he's going fast. Apart from that, the feeling in the new B13 spec car was good. And a puncture in the afternoon would also hold Richard Hill and Patrick Cooper back a little, picking that up fairly early into the penultimate stage, and luckily for them, they end the rally though 9th overall, 3rd in B13. And with that second-hand car still looking like it was doing the business on the stages, it would be 8th place overall for Pat Naylor and Ian Lawrence. They took the decision to go out on a harder tyre for the afternoon, figuring that the multi-use stages would need a harder tyre to prevent punctures, even if it did mean a little less grip on that loose gravel. It paid dividends. No punctures. They end the rally with the NR4 class victory and 8th overall. Meanwhile, there'd be no change in the class through the afternoon, or indeed overall for Ian Joel and Graham Wood. They keep hold of that 7th place to the finish, and with their previous points being from way back on the Nicky Grist, this would be a welcome end to the rally. Charles Payne and Carl Williamson managed to work their way up the leaderboard a little through the afternoon, not quite reaching the 5th place from last time out that they surely set out to better, but 6th place was still a strong finish for the Fiesta WRC pair. Probably one of the drives of the rally this weekend though would come from Perry Gardner and Jack Bowen, their first outing in the R5 and managing to end the event with 5th place. Some fantastic and very impressive, it has to be said, times on their local stages. Clearly, this pair would be one to watch. Speaking of which, it was a fantastic comeback from 10th place overall for another youngster, Elliot Payne. Cameron Fair alongside, a clean run through the afternoon, and not catching any dust in the stages meant that they could push through the leaderboard and end the rally 4th overall. The top of that leaderboard would also get a bit of a shake-up in the final stages of the day as well. We would lose Callum Black and Jack Morton. They clip a log pile in the penultimate stage of the day, forced to pull over. A disappointing end, but they'd shown that they had some great pace and they had what it took to fight for this championship up until that point. So their loss would be, of course, Ian Bainbridge's and Will Atkins' gain. They step up to take the final step on our podium. They tried their best to catch the crews up ahead, but it wasn't to be. The setup changes in service had worked though. Their run through the afternoon felt, looked, and as far as the time were concerned, was a lot better. It would be another strong result for George Lepley and Tom Woodburn, adding to their season tally, taking 2nd place overall, as well as the B13 class win. That result putting them 3rd in the championship standings after this, the 3rd round of the season. But taking a dominant victory here this weekend and making it 2 wins from 3 rounds would be Gary Pearson and Niall Burns. They managed the gap in the afternoon, doing nothing stupid and managing to keep their concentration to take the win by almost a minute by the end of the rally. And of course, with 2 wins under their belt, that keeps them firmly in the lead of the championship after this round. Here's a reminder of how those overall results looked at the end of the event. Let's have a look through that leaderboard. Next up, the crews have a few weeks to get the cars prepped, ready for the fast stages of Yorkshire, for the track rod forest stages. Callum Black will surely be changing the ratio in the gearbox for that one, and we will of course be there to bring you all of the action. In the meantime, you can catch up with previous rounds on our social media, so don't miss out on your rally fix. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.